Hey everyone, and welcome back. This week we're diving into the world of cybersecurity.
Really interesting stuff this week.
Definitely, we've got some pretty diverse sources too.
Yeah.
Fun a
People.
security podcast.
A market trends report.
Oh, and even a tip from a former Microsoft exec.
Looking forward to that one.
Me too.
Where?
So by the end of this deep dive, you'll be armed with the most fascinating and useful insights from these sources.
That's good.
All right, let's get started. Okay, so first up, some news from the White House.
Okay.
The new U.S. president reversed a 2023 executive order about AI safety and bias testing.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought so too. The original order, signed by the previous president, was all about getting a handle on potential problems with AI.
Right, like before they hit the mainstream.
Exactly.
Essentially, it directed the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, to come up with guidelines
Guidelines for...
for spotting and fixing flaws in AI models.
Oh, okay.
Imagine even things like hidden biases would need to be addressed. Yeah, and developers were also supposed to share safety test results with the government.
For releasing their AI system.
Yeah, before releasing their AI systems.
So by reversing this order, is the new administration saying full speed ahead with AI development,
Potentially.
even if it means less oversight?
That's a big question, isn't it? This move could definitely signal a shift in priorities.
Like maybe leaning more towards rapid innovation.
Exactly, even if it means potentially accepting more risk.
That really makes you think about the balance between pushing those technological boundaries and making sure it's done responsibly.
Absolutely.
What do you think about this, listener? Is this the right approach, or should there be more safeguards in place? Okay, this next story is a bit unnerving.
Oh,
Thousands of login credentials.
quirk.
4 major cybersecurity vendors were found on the dark web.
No way.
Yeah, and they're being sold for practically nothing, like $10 a pop.
Wow, that's scary.
I know, right?
It's a stark reminder that even the companies we trust to protect our data are vulnerable. The firm that uncovered this believes the credentials were likely harvested from these things called infostealer logs.
Infostealer logs.
Yeah, essentially bundles of stolen data from compromised devices.
Hold on. Compromised devices. Does that mean even if I'm careful online, my info could still be swept up in one of these logs?
Unfortunately, that's a real possibility.
Wow.
It highlights the interconnected nature of security. You could be doing everything right, but if a website you visit has lax security and gets compromised, your data could be at risk.
So it's not just about my own actions. It's about the security practices of every site and service I use.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Shifting gears, let's dive into AI red teaming.
Okay.
I'm curious about this one. What exactly does it mean to red team AI?
So imagine simulating attacks
Q.
to find vulnerabilities before the bad guys do.
Okay.
That's red teaming in a nutshell.
Mhm.
And when it comes to AI, specifically generative AI.
The kind that can create text and images?
Yeah, even code.
Oh, wow.
It's about proactively identifying and addressing security risks in these powerful systems.
I see. So Microsoft actually red teamed over 100 of their own generative AI products.
They did. It was a big study.
What did they find? What kinds of vulnerabilities are we talking about here?
Well, their research is ongoing, but it underscores a crucial point. As AI becomes more sophisticated and integrated into our lives.
We need to be extra vigilant about security.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's zoom in on cloud security.
All right.
The 2024 Cost of a Data Breach report found that 40% of breaches involved data spread across multiple environments.
Multiple.
Yeah, multiple.
That sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It really does.
It definitely speaks to the complexity of securing data in the cloud.
Yeah.
The traditional security measures that worked for on-premises systems,
Like firewalls.
like firewalls, often aren't enough in the cloud's dynamic distributed world.
Right, because data can be here, there, and everywhere.
Exactly.
So what's the answer? How do we effectively secure data in this kind of environment?
It requires a shift in mindset. Okay.
We need to move from a perimeter-centric approach to a data-centric one.
Interesting.
That means robust access controls,
Okay.
encryption, and constant monitoring.
So we have visibility and control over our data wherever it resides.
Exactly.
Speaking of tools, I understand there are some new kids on the block.
Oh, which ones?
Google's OSV Scalibur and the open source OpenGrep.
Interesting.
Yeah, so these are both source code scanning and analysis tools.
What do those do?
They help find security vulnerabilities in software.
Oh,
Think of them as superpowered spell checkers.
for code.
For code, yeah.
Cool.
So what makes these tools stand out from the crowd? What are their superpowers?
Well, OSV Scalibur leverages Google's vast experience in vulnerability management.
Okay.
They've basically bottled their knowledge from protecting their own massive systems.
And made it accessible in this tool.
Exactly.
So it's like having Google's security experts looking over your shoulder.
In a way, yes.
That's pretty cool. And OpenGrep.
OpenGrip is all about community collaboration. Oh, how so?
10 different security organizations came together to create it,
Wow.
with the goal of making powerful code security tools freely available to everyone.
Very cool. Okay, so now remember those leaked cybersecurity credentials we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
It seems like companies are starting to get serious about preventing similar incidents.
Especially those caused by insiders.
Exactly.
Hmm.
You're right. CrowdStrike just launched a new offering specifically designed to prevent insider threats.
Oh, wow.
They're focused on identifying individuals who might pose a risk.
Whether it's someone intentionally trying to cause harm or someone who's simply being careless.
Right.
So is this a resurgence of data loss prevention or DLP?
PLP.
Yeah, I remember that being a big buzzword a while back.
Me too, yeah. For those who might not be familiar, DLP is all about preventing sensitive data from leaving an organization's control.
Whether intentionally or accidentally.
And yes, it seems to be gaining renewed interest.
Especially with the rise of high-profile data breaches caused by insiders.
But is this just a concern for large corporations?
Or are there takeaways for the average person, too?
Exactly.
Well, the principles behind DLP are relevant to everyone.
Okay.
Think about your passwords, financial information, or even private conversations. Being mindful of who has access to that data and taking steps to protect it is crucial.
That's a great point. Now, before we move on to our career tip of the week, let's hear from our sponsor. Before the break, we were talking about insider threats and the resurgence of DLP. But let's switch gears for a moment
Okay.
and get some career advice from a seasoned tech leader.
All right.
We came across an insightful article
Bye.
by Steven Sinofsky.
Oh, yeah, former Microsoft exec.
Exactly. It's titled, Systems Ideas That Sound Good, But Almost Never Work.
Interesting.
I know, right? It's packed with wisdom for anyone building systems, not just software engineers.
Cool.
So what's the main takeaway here?
Sinofsky's key point is this. Don't blindly implement software patterns. It's easy to reach for a familiar solution because it seems simple.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's the right fit for the specific problem you're trying to solve.
So it's like using a hammer to screw in a screw.
Yeah, exactly.
You might technically get it done, but it's not the most efficient or effective approach.
He emphasizes the importance of first principles thinking.
First principle thinking.
Yeah, basically you break down a problem to its fundamental elements and reason from there.
I see.
It's about understanding the why behind a solution, not just blindly following a pattern.
That's great advice. And honestly, it applies to so many areas of life, not just tech.
Yeah, for sure.
It's about being thoughtful and intentional in our approach to problem solving, really analyzing the situation before jumping in.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears to a topic that's crucial for anyone involved in vulnerability management, the Exploit Prediction Scoring System, or EPSS.
Okay, this sounds intriguing. We came across a report called A Visual Exploration of Exploits in the Wild, and it really delves into the world of EPSS. For those who might not be familiar, could you break down what EPSS is and why it's so important?
Sure. EPSS is a model that helps prioritize vulnerabilities based on their likelihood of actually being exploited out in the wild.
Oh, wow.
Imagine it uses tons of data information about past exploits, how attackers behave, and software characteristics,
Okay.
all to predict how likely a vulnerability is to be used in a real attack.
So the report actually found that EPSS is more accurate than traditional vulnerability scoring systems like CVSS.
It did.
Why is that?
Well, CVSS, the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, has been the go-to for a long time, but it has limitations.
What kind of limitations?
It relies heavily on expert opinions.
Which can sometimes be subjective.
Exactly. EPSS, on the other hand, uses real-world data to make its predictions.
Making it a more objective and reliable tool for assessing risk.
Right.
So how could EPSS change the way organizations manage vulnerabilities? What's the practical application here?
Instead of just focusing on vulnerabilities with the highest CVSS scores, organizations can use EPSS to prioritize those most likely to be exploited.
Oh, yeah.
It allows for a more proactive, data-driven approach.
Helping teams allocate resources more effectively and ultimately reduce their risk.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just about identifying vulnerabilities, it's about understanding which ones pose the most immediate threat.
Right.
Okay, before we wrap up, I know we always like to share some resources that our listeners might find valuable.
Absolutely.
For anyone looking to stay up to date on the latest cybersecurity news, I highly recommend the ISC Stormcast podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
What's so great about this podcast, what makes it stand out from the crowd?
It's a short daily podcast that delivers a concise summary of the most important security events. Think of it as your morning cybersecurity briefing.
A quick and easy way to start your day, informed and ready to tackle any security challenges that come your way. It's nice. And on the career development front, we came across a fantastic resource, the Atlassian Work Life website.
Cool.
This site is packed with practical tips and insights on all sorts of work-related topics.
Oh, wow.
They cover everything from creating a productive morning routine to navigating the complexities of working with different personality types.
That sounds incredibly useful. What kind of content can listeners find on this site?
They have a wide range of resources, including articles, videos, even templates.
Nice.
It's definitely worth checking out for anyone looking to thrive in the workplace and beyond.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm adding that to my list. Now, before we get to our final thoughts, let's take a quick moment to hear from our sponsor.
Welcome back to the show. We've explored a ton of ground in this cybersecurity deep dive. We have. From AI red teaming to career tips.
And everything in between.
It really has. So as we wrap up, what are the most valuable takeaways you hope our listeners will walk away with?
Well, that story about leaked cybersecurity credentials.
It's a stark reminder that security is everyone's responsibility.
It's not just something for big companies to worry about.
Exactly. We all need to take steps to protect our own data.
Whether it's through strong passwords or multi-factor authentication.
Or being extra cautious about phishing scams.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what about the AI red teaming discussion? What's the key message there?
I think it highlights the importance of proactively searching for vulnerabilities.
Especially as AI becomes more and more integrated into our lives.
Right. It's not enough to assume our systems are secure.
We need to test them.
Challenge them and find those weak points.
Before someone with malicious intentions does.
Exactly.
Right. It's about being proactive instead of reactive. Now, when it comes to cloud security, what's the biggest takeaway for our listeners?
The cloud presents unique security challenges.
And traditional security measures often fall short.
Yeah, we need to shift our thinking from a perimeter-centric approach to a data-centric one.
Okay, so robust access controls, encryption, and continuous monitoring to protect our data wherever it resides.
Exactly.
I think that's a really crucial point.
Yeah.
It's not just about building walls around our data anymore.
It's about securing the data itself.
No matter where it is.
Right.
So, as we wrap up this cybersecurity deep dive, what's the one question you'd like to leave our listeners pondering? What should they be thinking about as they go forward?
What cybersecurity topic are you most interested in learning more about?
Oh, that's a good one.
This field is constantly evolving, and staying curious is key.
What piqued your interest today, listener? What do you want to explore further? Let us know in the comments. And until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay safe out there in the digital world.